Wow, late last night, the United States military had to scramble fighter jets as it appeared that Russian aircraft were approaching the Alaskan Air Defense ID zone. Listen to what happened over the radio systems as these Russian planes were approaching the Alaskan airspace. Here, play this clip.
Cash 5-1 heavy contact Anchorage Center on 123.9er cadet.
123.9er, Cash 5-1.
Yes, and it since has been confirmed the KC-135s and an E-3 alongside an unknown number of fighter jets were scrambled yesterday evening due to unknown aircrafts, likely Russian, operating in or near the Alaska Air Defense Identification Zone, known as the ADIZ right there. And you heard that on radio. We'll wait to get more information, but it certainly seems that Vladimir Putin is testing Alaska's air defense, testing Donald Trump here, and sees utter weakness in Donald Trump. And of course, picking Alaska, the location where Putin was given the red carpet treatment as Donald Trump had the United States military go down on their knees in one of the images that will be etched in American history as one of the most embarrassing moments ever, most humiliating moments ever. Another moment would be this, Donald Trump's speech at the United Nations. No doubt Vladimir Putin seeing Donald Trump give that speech and again, sensing utter weakness, testing a very, very weak individual. As Governor Newsom posted about this. Wow, very deep and profound by Donald Trump. Here, play this clip.
Your country is going to fail. And I'm really good at predicting things, you know. They actually said during the campaign, they had a hat, the best-selling hat. Trump was right about everything. And I don't say that in a braggadocious way, but it's true. I've been right about everything.
I just wanted to show you that short clip right there because it seems that Putin and Americans' enemies are seeing that and believing that what Donald Trump is focused on is just blowing up fishing boats off the coast of Venezuela and killing people somewhat indiscriminately on the coast of Venezuela without providing any data who these people are, if any innocent people are being killed, versus actually showing robust leadership because the Trump family is more focused on doing things like this. Yesterday, a big announcement from the Trump family that they will be relaunching Trump vodka. I'm not making this up, folks. The Trump family made this post yesterday on their official Instagram accounts. They opened up a new Trump vodka Instagram account, and that's one of the things they're focused on, Trump vodka. So I just want to get this straight, just make sure we're all on the same page here. Trump vodka, they're focused on bringing a UFC fight in front of the White House. They're focused on Donald Trump's travels to the UK where he was gallivanting with King Charles in golden carriages. We're bailing out Argentina and Javier Milei. You've got Donald Trump destroying the Rose Garden and turning it into something that they're calling Club Rose Garden. They're building a 90,000 square foot ballroom, destroying the East Wing of the White House, which belongs to us, the People's House. And then they're launching the vodka company while Eric Trump was making his rounds yesterday, not just only announcing that, but this is what the Trump regime was pushing yesterday. Donald Trump deserves the Nobel Peace Prize so many times over, and Mount Rushmore. How embarrassing is this, folks? How freaking embarrassing. This was yesterday. Here, play this clip.
What about your father on Mount Rushmore? I know patriots will want me to ask that because they love that idea. The Nobel Peace Prize notwithstanding, but Mount Rushmore, it just seems like after everything you all have been through, everything that he's endured, it just seems to follow.
He deserves it.
Yeah.
He deserves it. And he deserves a Nobel Peace Prize so many times over. I've literally been in that office. I was in that office for one conversation where he literally stopped a war. In fact, I was in the office recently for another one where he stopped another one. I mean, the amount of children, and I say children, young kids right now that are running around the world who are alive based on the fact that he stopped conflicts that otherwise would have spiraled out of control.
Yeah.
There are moms and dads out there who have their kids based on calls that he's made and conflicts that he's ended kind of before they really got out of control.
Mm-hmm.
And they have probably zero appreciation that, many of their children and many of the people they knew would not be there had it not been for him. And
now Donald Trump posted the following as well. He's calling for UN workers, United Nations workers, to be arrested because his escalator didn't work yesterday, despite the fact that the thorough investigation by the United Nations demonstrated that it was Donald Trump's own videographer who tripped the escalator switch. And it was also Donald Trump's team in charge of the teleprompter. Donald Trump writes, a real disgrace took place at the United Nations yesterday. Not one, not two, but three very sinister events. First, the escalator going up to the main speaking floor came to a screeching halt. It stopped on a dime. It's amazing that Melania and I didn't fall forward onto the sharp edges of these steel steps face first. It was a disaster. It was only that we were each holding the handrail tightly, or it would have been a disaster. This was absolutely sabotage, as noted by a days earlier post in the London Times that said UN workers joked about turning off an escalator. The people that did this should be arrested. Then, as I stood before a television crowd of millions of people all over the world and important leaders in the hall, my teleprompter didn't work. It was stone cold dark. And he goes on and whines even more. Folks, we're headed towards a government shutdown while Donald Trump is engaged in all of whatever the hell that is that I just showed you. Government shutdown will take place on October 1st. Donald Trump has posted that he does not want to have any discussions or any meetings at all with Democrats. He's previously ordered the Republicans in the Senate and in the House, and they complied not to speak with Democrats, yet alone negotiate with them. They need 60 votes in the Senate. So how are Democrats supposed to vote for something when they're literally being given like the silent treatment? Like, no offense to little petulant children, but like children give the silent treatment. I don't hear you. I don't hear you. That's actually what Republicans are doing right now. So how are Democrats supposed to even vote for something when the other side doesn't even talk to them, and then Trump cancels the meetings? To me, that's the most important point as we think about this shutdown. One side, the Democrats, wants to talk, meet, and I think most importantly, protect people's health care, because the Affordable Care Act tax credits are about to expire, meaning if you're on an Affordable Care Act plan, your premiums are about to go up 2 to 3x. Seems like a worthy cause to fight for. I don't know, Americans having health care and not all dying in mass as Donald Trump goes, don't take Tylenol, hepatitis B, I'm going to give you my views about it, MMRV, don't do it this way, and other medical disinformation. But Trump doesn't even want to talk to them, and the Republicans, no conversations. And here was a scoop from Politico. The White House Budget Office is now instructing federal agencies to prepare reduction in force plans for mass firings during a possible government shutdown, according to a memo obtained by Politico. So the game here is force a shutdown, blame Democrats, then say, oh, Democrats just want to shut it down to protect migrants and trans and whatever marginalized community that MAGA Republicans, they go back to the same playbook, right? Blame trans and marginalized communities and say Democrats want to do all of that, liberal TV or whatever the hell they're going to do. But in reality, this is a way, Project 2025, to just eliminate all of government, bring the government down to its knees, blame the Democrats for all of the economic calamity that Trump has already set in motion, right? There's already a recession in manufacturing and construction, or at least as financial reporters talk about it, recession-like. I think it's pretty recessionary at this point. I've gone over all the recession indicators right now as well, but I think Trump wants to say that I was building a golden age. Look at all of it, and the Democrats screwed it up right here. I think that's the plan. I want to cover a few more topics with you this morning, though, and today. We now know, as Fox is reporting, that the Justice Department is seeking to indict former FBI director under Donald Trump, James Comey. They're trying to contrive some pretext to bring a federal prosecution against him. You'll remember that Eric Siebert, the former top federal prosecutor in the Eastern District of Virginia, was forced out by the Trump regime because he did not find sufficient evidence to bring criminal charges against New York Attorney General Letitia James. Well, now we know there was more behind the scenes as well, because the statute of limitations for bringing a criminal prosecution against James Comey would expire next Tuesday. So Donald Trump wanted to bring in his personal attorney, Lindsay Halligan. She's the person who Donald Trump appointed to gut the Smithsonian. She said, there's too much talk about slavery in the African American Museum. It's that lady. She was also Donald Trump's personal attorney when he was not in office. So Trump has now replaced a career federal prosecutor with Lindsay Halligan, and now she's trying to seek an indictment of James Comey before the statute of limitations expires on Tuesday. One of the things we should note is that former top prosecutor, Eric Siebert, Republican guy, was a Trump pick, interim United States attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia. The Eastern District of Virginia prosecutors had also prepared a memo that now Lindsay Halligan has, saying that there is no evidence at all to prosecute James Comey. But they're going to ignore that. They're going to try to get an indictment by a grand jury, and then they're going to try to prosecute Comey. Eventually, I believe a federal judge is going to throw it out on the basis of a malicious prosecution, and I think Comey's going to prevail. But a point that I think is getting not spoken about enough right here is think about not just the Comey case, but the countless other prosecutions across the country where the federal prosecutors are going to be asking jurors to convict people. And if you're a criminal defense attorney, what would you argue? I would say we all know that this is just Trump vendetta against our client. We've seen it before, right? I would bring this up in every criminal case that's out there. And think about the FBI agents in other cases that have to testify. They're going to be cross-examined by public defenders and criminal defense lawyers on this types of behavior. And so there may be across the country many thousands of criminal cases that are validly brought by federal prosecutors and FBI, not just the phony ones that Trump's bringing. And bad guys may be getting off much easier because jurors aren't going to buy what the Trump regime destroyed and gutted DOJ is selling. And at the same time, are we more safe or less safe? Just ask yourself that. Kash Patel, a former podcaster, is leading the FBI. The number 2 is Dan Bongino, another prosecutor. The head of counterterrorism at the FBI is a 22-year-old intern named Thomas Fugate III, who used to be a gardener and was a MAGA intern with no experience at the FBI, yet alone counterterrorism. And he's now in charge of that. I don't care what political party you're from. That's not okay. Just look at how their conduct is even impacting cases like the Luigi Mangione case, right? They're a federal prosecutor. Judge Garnett called out the DOJ for engaging in impermissible conduct, citing Donald Trump statements saying Mangione is part of a leftist plot to go after MAGA people or something like that. And then Pam Bondi and Kristi Noem and others have repeated that on TV. So Mangione's attorney were smart. They said, look, this is clear violations of local rules. You got to throw out the case against Mangione. Well, I don't think the federal judge is going to do that. I don't know what the federal judge is going to do. But the federal judge, in a very terse order, called out the Trump DOJ, said, you better explain why are you violating the court's orders. But you see how this can trickle into all of these other cases as well. It's not just unique to this bogus case against James Comey, which I think is going to be thrown out. It's the entire DOJ has lost its credibility. You have John Bolton, Donald Trump's former national security advisor. His lawyer, Abby Lowell, says that many of the documents that the FBI seized when they raided Bolton's DC office last month were 2 decades old and declassified. Nothing inappropriate at all. Remember when they raided Bolton's home? And again, I want you just to think about federal judges and magistrates who are going to be asked to sign off on warrants and who are being asked to sign off every day, how they perceive this DOJ right now. One thing I want to note as well, this is what Donald Trump did to the West Wing in the Oval Office. He put all of these photos of former presidents, which they're calling the Presidential Walk of Fame. It just looks so ridiculous with the gold. But then as it scrolls and it gets to former President Biden, they did a photo of an auto pen because Donald Trump clearly has Biden derangement syndrome. And it's just so obvious again how just how utterly embarrassing this behavior is. It goes back to where I started this video talking about Putin testing American air defenses in Alaska at this point, because they don't believe that Trump's a serious guy. They think he's, no offense to clowns, because clowns have a serious profession. They think Trump's like a wannabe fascist clown, like a wannabe, like just a pathetic, like a punk is what they think. Finally, I want to share this with you. You had J.D. Vance giving a really awful speech in North Carolina yesterday where he said, if you want to stop political violence, stop telling your supporters that everyone who disagrees with you is a Nazi. Look in the mirror. Well, here are the past comments by J.D. Vance. Donald Trump might be America's Hitler. Donald Trump is a cynical asshole. Donald Trump is cultural heroin. Noxious, reprehensible. I'm a never Trump guy. I never liked him. Terrible candidate. You are an idiot if you voted for him. That's the VP right there. I don't want to hear J.D. Vance's voice, so I'm not going to play that clip for you. I do. You want to hear J.D. Vance's voice? No, you don't want to hear J.D. Vance. Neither do I. But he says that. I've showed it in other videos. I want to leave you with this finally, which is that 29-year-old shooter in Dallas at the detention center, Joshua John, J-A-H-N, Jan, is who has been identified. White guy, 29 years old, kind of fits the profile of a lot of these shooters. And that profile is not leftist radical. It's people who are going down, mostly white guys, going down this rabbit hole of internet lost soul. They called him like an edgelord, someone who just likes to provoke and views themselves as, just trying to screw with the world, as these lost men, these lost humans. But MAGA wanted to weaponize that right away and said, look, anti-ICE. He shot the detainees. He shot at the detainees before taking his own life. He didn't shoot at the ICE agents. He shot at the detainees. And every freaking thing imaginable, MAGA immediately goes leftist, radical, trans, whatever they say, to cause more division in our country. And I think it's, incumbent on us as leaders in this media space and new digital space, to, again, as I've said before, to speak with moral clarity, to speak with conviction, but we have to also call out the lies and the intentional divisiveness by the right. And it's important that we are okay with saying we need to bring back community and common sense and education and facts and empathy and talk about democracy and just speak to people at a very human level, because the MAGA playbook is divide. And that makes us weaker, as you saw at the beginning of this video. Let me know what you think. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 6 million. And thank you so much for watching.
Love this video? Support independent media and unlock exclusive content, ad-free videos, and custom emojis by becoming a paid member of our YouTube channel today. You can also gift memberships to others. Let's keep growing together.